My name is Angel Olvera, and I'm from Los Angeles, California. I'm from a very conservative desert part of Los Angeles, about an hour north of downtown. So I grew up in the desert. My dad was 16 when he had me. My mom was 17. They met at a high school party. It was really rough for me growing up. It was a very tumultuous upbringing. I was around, some violence. I dealt with a lot of uncomfortable situations, but I was honestly a really good boy. I was quiet. I channeled everything into school. I channeled everything into church. I loved playing on my computer. My favorite video game was Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I would spend days literally creating these theme parks that I imagined myself in. I remember there was one time in particular when my parents got into a pretty bad fight, and the only thing that I had at the time was my computer, and it was something that I always had with me. And I was able to literally start, I started from scratch. So I created my own worlds. I remember building this theme park that I really wanted to be at the time. And, I remember this game where you could see how people, if they're happy or if they're sad. And I just wanted everyone in the park to be happy. I survived the situation that I was in. After years of really pouring myself into my school, into my work, I got into the school of my dreams. I got into Stanford. I was excited because, after 18 years of being this good boy and following the rules and doing what was told of me, I kind of expected that this was going to be a different time. Sophomore year, I met someone who changed my life. I fell madly in love with him. We traveled around the world together. He was the first person to bring me out of the country for the first time. My dad has this big New Year's Eve party every single year. A lot of family come, a lot of friends come. I said, okay, well, I'm gonna bring home my boyfriend. And I didn't even process that anything bad could happen because I was so in love with him, and I figured that they would fall in love with him too. The big day comes and I bring home my boyfriend. I introduce him to everyone. I introduce him to my dad. My dad doesn't say a word the whole night. I think he's so shocked, but everyone else seemed to really like him. So I saw my dad the next day to go to the Rose Bowl game, which is a football game that I always had to go to. And things were fine, and I kind of thought I did it. That was way easier than I expected. I was proud of myself. I go back to Stanford, and a few months later, I remember talking to my dad over phone, and I think I was asking him for money or something, which I did often at the time in college. He was going through some stuff as well with his grandma who passed away, and he just kind of went off on me, and in a way that I really wasn't expecting. I remember in particular him saying to me that you didn't even have the balls to come out to me, which was worse than a homophobic slur. It was because I had thought that I was being extremely courageous, not just then but always. And so it really put me into this downward spiral. I had imagined that when I was 20 years old I would be Mark Zuckerberg. I had imagined that I would be on the cover of Forbes. I remember I'd had a row of Forbes magazine covers on my wall in college because I had always wanted to be this really young, really successful entrepreneur who defied odds. I actually ended up performing really poorly that quarter. I didn't even show up to one of my finals for a class that I would have normally really done well in, and I was had to go see a counselor, and I was told that I was put on academic probation, which was basically an ultimatum that if I didn't perform better the next quarter, then I would have to take a leave of absence. I remember when I was selecting my classes for the next quarter, I saw this class on lamp design, which to me was so odd. I've always kind of been drawn to lighting and just the energy around lighting, and so I signed up for the class and got in. It was really throughout the quarter that I started falling in love with it. They gave us this assignment to create a lamp, and I remember when I started sketching it up and we had to 3D model it, I was like, this is the last class I'm ever going to take. I better make this the best lamp ever. I don't know, I just really felt like it was like I was lip syncing for my life, but it was like making a lamp for my life. The day of reckoning came when we all lined up our lamps in a row. We were told that we were going to have judges come and walk around, and they invited all these different departments, and this is a big day in the product design department. And my lamp literally towered over everyone's. It was maybe 4 feet tall. It was pink. It had beads on it, and I designed it in the shape of a candelabra, this very very traditional, ornate design, but I used these very modern materials. It was really successful for me. I mean, people were telling me how much they loved it, and it was the first time I had confidence in a few years. That was the day that I realized that I was a designer. But it was also a day that I realized that I have a lot more work to do, that I now have a responsibility to keep going, and I could actually impact the world through my designs. That confidence carried itself in the way that I interacted with my family. I wasn't afraid to have these tough conversations with them about my sexuality. Today things are great with my parents. My mom actually is visiting me in New York City this Friday. I'll be introducing her and her husband to my boyfriend. Hopefully I'll do it right this time. My parents are both really proud of me. For them, I don't even think they imagined having a kid that would grow up and move to New York and be a designer and live his life. And I think that there's times where they don't understand what I do, but at the end of the day, they respect me, and that's all I really ask for.